Welcome, everybody, to WiseTake.com MMA DFS podcast. I'm your host, Jeff, a.k.a. Wigspliter, a.k.a. Wiggleson, coming at you straight from WiseTake.com with another UFC Fight Night 133, Dos Santos versus Ivanov. This is going to be a pretty exciting card. There's a lot of decent fights on this one, some money to be made. If you're not already a WiseTake.com subscriber, you might want to head on over to WiseTake.com. You can pick up a MMA event pass for $4.99. You'll gain access to my premium article the night before the fight, which will be Friday. That will detail fight by fight who I'm picking for a cash GPP, what the fighter's strengths and weaknesses are. You'll also gain access to the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week chat room. I'm always in there bouncing in and out, see if there's any questions or any concerns about the upcoming fight card. There's a lot of good minds in there that bounce in and out. We go over strategy, contest selection, all that fun stuff. Also, another tool that I developed is it's a cheat sheet. Goes over high, mid, and value plays, GPP plays, cash stacks if there's any, who I'm fading. This is like a overview of what's going to happen. Also, I have a slate breakdown, which gives you the fighter salaries, Vegas odds, and then their probability calculation that they're going to win. All right, now, without getting too far into it, let's jump into the first fight. We have a fight that was supposed to be in, I believe it was UFC Utica. Jessica Aguilar versus Jody Esquivel. This fight was pretty funny because they didn't let Aguilar fight because she had chapped lips. Now that's pretty funny to me, actually. I don't understand why they were just sort of like not down with that or whatever, but I don't know. I don't get it. Aguilar, she's one of the, I wouldn't say pioneers of women's MMA, but she's an old school, she's an OG. And Esquivel is going to be the younger, more athletic fighter in the cage. Aguilar seems to be a little more, to me, she seems a little more stiff. And not necessarily like she just stopped in time. But Aguilar's salary is $7,900. At the time of this recording, she's a 105 underdog. Esquivel is $8,300 salary, and she's a 125 favorite. From a DFS standpoint, I think this fight's probably going to go to a decision. I don't think it's going to score very well. I mean, they're both fairly decent, evenly matched. I think I don't think there's necessarily going to be a lot of takedowns or an abnormal amount of strikes, but I could see Aguilar probably pulling off the victory. I'm not sure if you want to go a dog or pass on this one, and then I mean, if you're playing in a cash lineup, maybe you could roster them, but I'm not comfortable rostering either of these two ladies. Moving on to the next fight, we have Mark De La Rosa going up against Elias Garcia. Elias Garcia got his shot at the UFC through the Dana White Looking for a Fight series. He competed in Cabo Bota Fights 1 against Adam Antolin. He knocked him out in the first round. Mark De La Rosa is coming off a loss to Tim Elliott by Anaconda choke in the second round. De La Rosa isn't bad. I mean, he's a pretty all-around fighter. His wife actually fought last weekend. De La Rosa is a very athletic striker, developing striker. He does have decent grappling from what I've seen so far. Garcia's salary is 8,600. He's a minus 140 favorite. De La Rosa's salary is 7,600. He's a plus 120 underdog. Elias Garcia, he trains with I think it's Anthony Pettis over at Rufus Sport. He seems pretty solid. He does have like I said, his striking is developing. With him being the favorites, there's definitely warrant there. At 8,600, do I think he's going to get the stoppage? I think this fight's probably going to go to a decision. I don't necessarily see De La Rosa Garcia taking De La Rosa down. De La Rosa's a fairly competitive fighter. It's not like he's a walk in the park. De La Rosa definitely has an opportunity to win this fight. He just has to avoid some of those bombs that Garcia's going to be chucking at him. I mean, he throws some pretty solid hooks. But I do like De La Rosa in this fight. I'm not sure if he's going to be, if he has the potential for the stoppage against De La Rosa, but I think it probably goes to decision. So a 3-round battle. It could be DFS gold there, but at 8,600, he's definitely going to need a high volume amount of strikes, decent amount of takedowns, maybe a couple knockdowns here and there. But I think De La Rosa is a pretty solid fighter. So I think it's a closer matched fight than I think people are going to be expecting. And it's probably going to go by split decision, but Elias Garcia should pull off the victory. Moving on to the next fight, the last fight in the UFC Fight Pass early prelims, we have Liz Carmouche versus Jennifer Maia. If you're not familiar with Jennifer Maia, she's the Invicta flyweight champ, I believe. Right now, she's on a 6-fight win streak. She's has some pretty decent wins over like Roxanne Modafferi, Vanessa Porto. I think that's who she won her belt off of. She has 5 submission wins. She has 2 TKO victories on her record. She's a Muay Thai striker. Very, very solid kicks. Solid technical striking. She's got a good jab. Carmouche, though, she's a gritty grappler, man. She's like one of those like aggressive, come forward like in your face type grapplers. That she has decent striking. She's very tenacious. She has wins over like Lauren Murphy and Caitlin Chukagian. I see this fight very competitive, and I think Carmouche. Let's see, Carmouche's salary is 8,200, and Maia's salary is 8,000. Carmouche at the time of this recording is a minus 125 favorite. Maia is a 105 underdog. It's close to a pick'em. I'm not sure if Maia can keep the fight standing and avoid the pressure of Carmouche's takedowns. It's possible that she's able to probably maybe take it to a decision, but I think Carmouche, with her pressure, is probably going to overwhelm Maia in her debut. Sometimes fighters, when they're making their debut, they tend to be a little tentative. Maybe the lights of the big stage get to them a little bit. And then coming up against a fighter like Carmouche, that's a big task. But I like Carmouche's upside for with the takedowns from DFS standpoint. If you think about it, takedowns, if she lands 3 or 4 takedowns, that's 15 points. Gets a decision victory, that's 30, so that's 45, and then doesn't And then if you try to factor in the amount of significant strikes she has, she averages 3 significant strikes per minute. You're looking at a fairly decent output when it comes to what she can potentially give you. There's no such thing as a guarantee, especially in DFS in general. But Carmouche, though, at her salary at 8,200, even a decision victory with multiple takedowns and the amount of solid strikes she puts out, I think she's probably going to score in between 60 and 75 points, which isn't value for her salary. So maybe this is pretty much of a fade fight, maybe a dog or pass type thing. But even then, Maia's salary is high as well at 8,000. So unless she was able to get the stoppage within the first 2 rounds, that's the only way that she's going to be able to pay off her salary. Now moving on to the next fights, the first fight on the FS1 prelims, we have Kurt Holobaugh versus, I'm probably going to murder this name, Reneau Barcelos. I think that sounds about right. Let's see, Holobaugh, I believe he fought Matt Bassett on the first episode of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. I don't know. I'm going to have to look more into him. Holobaugh's salary is 8,800. He's a minus 200 favorite going up against Barcelos. He's 7,400, and he is a plus 170 underdog. Barcelos is his record is 11-1. He had the featherweight title for RFA. He competed as well on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. But he hasn't fought, I believe, in, let me see, what is this, 18? Mathematically, that's almost 2 years. He's 33 years old. So I'm not sure if, like, I don't know. Both these guys are fairly inactive. I think Holobaugh's, he had some injuries or something that helped him out of the cage. But I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with the underdog here. I'm gonna go Barcelos 74. I'm gonna go dog or pass. I'm gonna go Barcelos at 7,400. I don't think Holobaugh. I'm gonna have to watch more video, but I think at 8,800 he's gonna need a stoppage. I don't think Barcelos is that much of a, like, I don't think he's gonna get finished fairly quickly. Anything could happen inside the cage, but at 8,800 he would need an early finish to pay off his salary at 8,800, or he would need an abnormal amount of strikes or an abnormal amount of takedowns, high amount of takedowns in order to pay off that salary. I think I'd go dog or pass on this one, 7,400. Reneau Barcelos. Moving on to the next one, Justin Scoggins versus Said Nurmagomedov. He's the cousin of Khabib, and unlike his cousin, he does have a decent grappling skills, but he's more of a striker. He's a solid striker. Justin Scoggins, when he came in on the scene, he was actually, like, pretty, like, he was sort of like a high prospect. I mean, a lot of people were giving him a lot of praise when he came in, and he hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype. I believe he's 2-4 in the UFC. Um, he he beat guys like Ray Borg, but he lost to Pedro Munoz and Yuta Sasaki, where he tapped submission wise to them. Um, Now Nurmagomedov, he trains with Mark Henry, and Frankie Edgar, Marlon Moraes. He's one of those. He's going to be tough, man. It's going to be a tough fight, but it's going to be his debut. Now, depending on which Justin Scoggins we get, I mean, Scoggins could definitely come in there, and if he's focused in like and just ready to rock and roll, I mean, he's going to give Nurmagomedov like everything he can handle. This is Nurmagomedov's debut, but he does come from a solid fight camp, a solid fight line of family members, and like just the whole group that he's surrounded with coming into MMA. First look, I think I'd have to side with. I'd have to lean. I think it's a coin toss, but I'm going to lean more Justin Scoggins at 7,700. I don't know. It's still early. I still have to watch some more video on Nurmagomedov, but I like it. I mean, I think he could come in and definitely outstrike Scoggins and maybe even submit him. But I mean, anything's possible in the cage, so it's going to be interesting to see. Now, the next fight we have is, I do not understand how this is on the FS1 prelims. Darren the Damage Elkins, the number 10 ranked fighter, going up against Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Both these guys are fairly similar in fighting styles. Darren Elkins is one of those guys where, I mean, he has he has the nickname The Damage tattooed on his chest for a reason. He literally takes a crap load of damage, and then when his opponent gets tired out, that's when he starts taking over. Now, I'm not sure if Volkanovski is going to be the type of fighter that's going to tire out, because he has like a gas tank for days. So Volkanovski's salary is 9,200. Elkins' salary is 7,000. Elkins is a 285 underdog, and Volkanovski is a 345 favorite. Man, I want to say Darren Elkins is on like a 6-fight win streak, I believe. And every time he's come into his fights, he's always the underdog. He was an underdog against Michael Johnson. He was an underdog against Dennis Bermudez. He was an underdog against Mirsad Bektik. I mean, dude just finds a way to win. His last loss was against Hakran Diaz by split decision back in 2014. That was 3 years ago. Like I said, he's riding a 6-fight win streak. He's had wins over Rob Whiteford, Chaz Skelly, Godofredo Pepe, Mirsad Bektik, Dennis Bermudez, Michael Johnson, Volkanovski. He's insane too. He's 4-0 in the UFC. He has wins over Jeremy Kennedy, Shane Young, Mizuto Hirota, and Yusuke Kuzaya. He has some vicious ground and pound. When he takes guys down, I mean, he literally he Khabibs them. Like, he literally rides them and just punches them nonstop. That's why his average average significant strike landed per minute is 5.91. Darren Elkins' significant strike landed per minute is 3.14. Both these guys are grappling heavy. Alexander Volkanovski has the better takedown defense. But but Darren Elkins does have a slight submission edge. This is a great fight, man. I mean, I like Volkanovski just because his tenacity, but then at the same time, you can't bet against Darren Elkins. I mean, from a DFS standpoint, I mean, he's definitely worth like a roster spot just because of like you can't count him out. And I mean at 7,000, if you just started with Darren Elkins at 7,000 and worked your way, you know, everywhere else, I mean, you'd be able to fit a lot of guys in. Is this fight stackable? I don't think so. It's not a 5-round fight. I mean, we have seen 3-round fights that have been insane, like Damian Beatdown Brown versus Frank Camacho. That was I capitalized on that one. I think Damian Beatdown Brown scored 100 and I think it was 13 points, and I think Frank Camacho scored 96. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, to be able to stack that card, that fight, I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, it's definitely going to be contrarian. I don't think very many people are going to do it, but it'll be crazy. But this is first look, so I'd have to dive a little deep more into it. Now, moving on to the next fight, we have Eddie Weinland versus Alejandro Perez. Alejandro Perez's net salary is 9,100. He's a minus 200 favorite. Eddie Weinland, 7,100 salary. He's a plus 170 underdog. Now, these guys is like Eddie Weinland. He's just not very active when it comes to fighting. I think he fights roughly like one fight a year. His last fight was April 22nd, 2017, which was a split decision loss or a unanimous decision loss against John Dodson. Before that, he had a first round win by KO TKO against Takaya Mizugaki, and then a year. Let's see, that was in 2016 in December, and then 5 or 6 months before that in July, he fought 2 times that year. He beat Frankie Saenz, and then before that, in 2015, he lost to Brian Caraway by unanimous decision. Alejandro Perez is a lot more active. He's training out of AKA, I believe, so he's fighting. He's training every day with guys like Khabib Nurmagomedov, DC, Luis Pena, who just had a very impressive win in his debut at the Ultimate Fighter finale this past weekend. Perez has wins over Matthew Lopez. It was a second round knockout, KO TKO. Before that, it was Yuri Alcantara. It was a unanimous decision. And then before that, it was Andrei Sukumta, split decision. And then he had a draw against Albert Morales back in 2016. But I mean, ever since he came in, he's a fairly solid fighter, very active on the feet. I think this is Alejandro Perez's fight to lose. I think Eddie Weinland, his inactivity is probably going to show against a more active guy like Perez. I think Perez is probably going to have the opportunity to showcase his skills and step ahead. But I like Alejandro Perez in this fight. I'm not sure if I want any part of Eddie Weinland. Not that he's a bad fighter, it's just that his lack of activity isn't very appealing to me. Now, moving on to the next fight, we have Kat Zingano versus Marion Reneau. Both ladies' salaries are at 8,100. At the time of this recording, Kat Zingano is a minus 115 favorite. Reneau is a minus 105 favorite. So it's virtually a pick'em, according to Vegas. What concerns me about Reneau is that she doesn't actually have any takedowns. I think she has one actual takedown. She does have a submission victory over, I think it's Molly McCann or some crap like that. Or not Molly McCann. Man, who was that? Sarah McMahon? It was Sarah McMahon. Round 2 submission. Before that, she beat Tatiana Bernardo. It was the third round KO TKO. She had a draw against Beth Correa. And then she had a third round KO TKO against Miliana Dudeva. Split decision loss against Ashley Evans Smith. Kat Zingano. She's riding a 3-fight losing streak. She's lost against Caitlin Vieira by split decision, Juliana Pena by unanimous decision. She had that sort of horrible. I mean, it was a horrible loss to Ronda Rousey. It was a first round submission. I think it was like in the first 17 seconds or 20 seconds of the fight. She got submitted. When she got thrown down, it was like she was thrown right into the worst position. And then before that, she had a win over Amanda Nunes and Miesha Tate. She's gone through some pretty horrible stuff in her time in the past few years. Is this the fight that she turns it around? I'm not sure. Marion Reneau is she's the Belizean Bruiser. She's got a pretty good story. She's a full-time teacher. I think she actually had a full training camp for this fight because the kids are on summer camp. She is aging. I believe she's in her 40s now. Kat Zingano's fairly older as well. I think this is going to be a scrap. I think it's going to be a close one to call. From a DFS standpoint, I'm not sure if I could roster either one of these two ladies. There really isn't any stoppage upside. I mean, if you wanted to go with Reneau, just because she has proven that she has been able to put the volume on her opponents to get the stoppage, it's a plausible rostering idea, but Kat Zingano has shown that she's fairly durable. So my theory is this fight is probably going to go to a decision. And in a decision victory, I don't see it scoring that well. Let's see here. Let's see, a decision. So Marion Reneau scored 50 points in a decision loss, or let's see, it was a draw against Beth Correa. She scored 50 points, 32 points, and 13 points in both decision losses to Holly Holm and Ashley Evans Smith. Let's see, Kat Zingano. Decision loss, she scored 30 against Pena, 37 against Pena, and 30 against Vieira. So let's say if she was to somehow get the decision win, she would have only scored 67 points, and at 8,000, that's not very appealing from a DFS standpoint. I'm not sure if I'd want to roster them. There's not really that much upside. So I'm going to move on to the next fight. We have Chad Mendes versus Miles Jury. Chad Mendes is coming off of a USADA suspension. I believe he was out for, let's see here, I think it was 2 years. See, his last fight was in December of 2015, so that's 3 years, 6 months, which was a round 1 KO TKO loss to Frankie Edgar. Before that was in July 11th, 2015, which was a round 2 KO TKO loss to Conor McGregor. And then before that, he had a round 1 win over Ricardo Lamas. Miles Jury, on the other hand, he's riding a 2-fight win streak. He has a unanimous decision win over Rick Glen, and then a round 1 KO TKO win over Mike Della Torre. He has a round 1 submission loss to Charles Oliveira and a unanimous decision loss to Donald Cerrone. Now, let's see here. In the win over Rick Glen, he got in a decision win of 72 points. He had 2 takedowns, 1 reversal, 2 advances. The knockout win, he had 119. Chad Mendes, in both losses, he scored less than 50 points. And then his round 1 TKO win against Lamas was 124. In this fight, it's one of those hard ones to call. Honestly, I think it's hard to go against Chad Mendes just because of his grappling. I mean, he's a Division 1 wrestler going up against Miles Jury. I mean, it's hard to bet against somebody like that just because of the upside that they bring. Let's see here. Chad Mendes' salary is $8,900. He's a minus 185 favorite. Miles Jury's $7,300 salary. He's a plus 160 underdog. Now, it's been such a long time. Is it possible that Chad Mendes' chin has recovered from those losses? Possible. Has he been training? Of course. Ring rust is going to be there. Is he going to be able to pull the trigger? Is he going to be able to fire off, like he normally would? It's going to be interesting to see. From a DFS standpoint, this is a rough one. God, man, like it's hard to say. I can't. I'm gonna go with Chad Mendes. That he's probably gonna pull off the win just because of the higher grappling base that he has. Miles Jury definitely has a puncher's chance, and he's definitely worth a GPP flyer. He definitely can put a thumping on Chad Mendes, who has shown that he's been knocked out. Moving on to the next fight, we have Nico Price versus Randy Rude Boy Brown. This is another interesting fight. Nico Price has he's failed me. he should have won against Vicente Luque. He was actually winning that fight, and then Vicente Luque came back and whooped his ass. No, I take that back. The first round, it was fairly even. I think Luque was definitely on his ass. And then the second round, Luque just put it on him and then submitted him. And then he beat George Sullivan by a round 2 submission. He beat Juban before that by knockout. Randy Brown, he's coming off of a win over Mickey Gall, a unanimous decision. And then before that, he lost to the bully Bilal Muhammad. And then before that, he had 2 wins over Eric Montano and Brian Carmouche. From a DFS standpoint, Randy Brown's salary is $8,300. Nico Price is $7,900. Randy Brown is a minus 130 favorite. Nico Price is a plus 110 underdog. I'm leaning Nico Price in this one. I think this is a fight that he can definitely win. Randy Brown is going to be the bigger fighter, stature wise, which is saying a lot because Nico Price is fairly large too. Randy Brown, I believe, is 6'3", fairly big guy. Both these guys are punchers. Both these guys have submission ability. I think Nico Price has a slight edge when it comes to the grappling, and I think that might prevail. As long as Nico Price doesn't get touched on the chin, he shouldn't be too bad of a fight. But I like Nico Price for the win and for DFS purposes. But Randy Brown is definitely worth a GPP flyer if you have that kind of money. Moving on to the next fight, we have Dennis Bermudez versus Rick Glen. Um, Dennis Bermudez, I think he's 0-3 against Team Alpha Male right now. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. He has a loss to Andre Feely, Team Alpha Male. He has a loss against Darren Elkins, Team Alpha Male. Dennis Bermudez, but I mean, he's got some losses against Team Alpha Male. Now, is he going to get the golden sombrero with 0-3? I don't know. I mean, Dennis Bermudez, he's a pretty solid fighter. He just hasn't looked the same. Rick Glen is one of those guys where he just he's very unassuming. If you look at him, he just looks like the guy, he looks like your server at Applebee's. But he's a high volume striker. I mean, he put up 142 significant strikes against Gavin Tucker, which was a unanimous decision victory. He has a loss to Miles Jury. That's the only thing that concerns me. Whenever he fights somebody who's a grappling heavy, he tends to not be as active because he spends most of his time on his back. But like he lost to Evan Dunham by unanimous decision. Dunham took him down 3 times. Miles Jury took him down 2 times. So if Bermudez can come in with the correct fight plan, which would be a grappling heavy base. Bermudez's salary is $9,000 and he's -250 favorite, going up against Glen, who's 7,200. He's plus 210 underdog. Now, if he comes in with the correct game plan, Bermudez should win the fight, hands down. He should. But if Rick Glen can stuff those takedowns and stifle Bermudez, get him frustrated, and keep the fight standing, then Rick Glen definitely has the opportunity to win this fight. Now, the thing is that Team Alphaville seems to have Dennis Bermudez's number. So it's a possibility that they're going to game plan and give him the correct fight plan to come in and approach to fight Dennis Bermudez. So I think Rick Glen definitely is an underdog you can definitely target for GPPs for the upset. It's just, of course, especially when you're when you're going into GPPs, risk versus reward is high. That's what you want. You want the boom or bust play. You want the play that nobody's going to play in order to get the win. Rick Glen, I think, is definitely one of those players or one of those fighters. Fits that category. And I like it, but I think Dennis Bermudez, if he comes in with the right fight plan to take Rick Glen down and just ground and pound him, or just have top control for 3 rounds and weasel out a victory, it's highly plausible that he can get the job done. Now, moving on to the next fight, which is I don't understand why it's the co-main event, but it's Sage Northcutt versus Zach Otto. Zach Otto is the perennial upsetter. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, Sage Northcutt, ever since going to Team Alpha Male, he has looked better. In his last fight, he didn't necessarily look so good, but Zach Otto is coming off of a round 1 KO over Mike Pyle, where he sent him into retirement. Before that, he had a loss, first round knockout TKO loss to Li Jinglang, and then before that, he had a win over Keiichi Kunimoto. And then before that, he had a loss to Sergio Moraes. So he wins 1, loses 1, and wins 1, loses 1. If you go off of that theory, technically Sage Northcutt should win this fight. Northcutt is currently riding a 2-fight win streak. Since moving to 170 pounds, he looks a little more. He looks better. I mean, he looks like already looked like an action figure. Now he has muscles on top of muscles. But he has a 2-fight win streak. both unanimous decision victories. One over Michael Quinones and the other one against Thibaut Gauti. Before that, he had a loss to Mickey Gal, which was a second round submission loss. From a DFS standpoint, Sage Northcutt's salary is 8,400. He's a minus 130 favorite at the time of this recording. Zach Otto salary is 7,800, and he's a plus 110 underdog. At 8,400, God, I mean, I don't know if he has that. If he has the, I mean, he definitely pays off his salary. In the decision loss or decision victory over Quinones, he scored 88. So that's value. Gauti he only hit 70 points. 60. And then he had submission and KO victory. He scored over 90 and 109 points. But at 8,400, he definitely can hit value, but he doesn't necessarily have GPP upside. That's the only thing that concerns me. Now with Otto, he's basically a boom or bust play. It's either he's going to knock his opponent out or he's going to get knocked out. Or if he does go to decision, he could put up enough volume to score, maybe 30 to 50 points in a loss, or 30 to 40 points in a loss. In a split decision, he could score 60 to 70 points. But GPP upside, I mean, he does have a little bit of power in his hands. Northcutt doesn't necessarily show that. He hasn't shown that he's been knocked out. He shows that he's been submitted before. So I don't think Northcutt's fight plan would put him in a position where he's going to be at risk for that. I think he'll fight a lot at distance and he uses karate. So yeah, I see this fight going to decision as well. And unless Sage is able to use those super muscles that he has and tap on Otto's chin and get him knocked out within the first or second round, which is plausible. Definitely has the upside for that. Otto has shown that he can be stopped early. So I would go, if you're making multiple lineups, I definitely would think Northcutt is worth the GPP shot, but I think it has a little bit of a risk because the upside necessarily isn't there. Now moving on to the next fight, we have or the main event, we have Junior Dos Santos going up against Blagoy Ivanov. Ivanov is he's fought in a lot of the excuse me. He's fought in a couple of the other promotions. Excuse me. Let's see. He has he's fought for like Bellator. He's a world Sambo champion. He's beaten some pretty decent names in Sambo, but he has wins over like Rico Rodriguez, a former UFC fighter, LeVar Johnson, Josh Copeland, Sean Jordan. Do I see his fighting style giving Dos Santos a problem? Possibly. Stipe Miocic is the last guy Junior Dos Santos fought. He lost by round 1 KO TKO. Before that, he beat Ben Rothwell by a 5-round decision in 2016. Before that, he lost to Alistair Overeem by a 2nd-round TKO. And then before that, he had a 5-round unanimous decision over Stipe. which was a fight of the night bonus. This is a tough one because, I mean, if I think Ivanov is worth a GPP flyer just because of the fact that Dos Santos has shown that he's been stopped. He shows that not that he's chinny, but the guys that he's been knocked out by have insane power. Stipe, Overeem. Now, does Ivanov have that kind of power? I'm gonna have to look a little more into it, but I think Dos Santos should cruise to a victory, and Dos Santos' salary is 8,700. He's a minus 190 favorite. Ivanov's salary is 7,500. He was a plus 165 underdog, according to Vegas. Yeah, if Dos Santos doesn't, if he comes in and he utilizes his knowledge and his fight experience in the cage, I definitely think that the level of talent that he's fought is on another level compared to Blachowicz Ivanov, but he probably is going to need his seconds. He's gonna need to score a lot of points in order to pay his salary off. In a 5-round fight, it's definitely plausible. But that's my first look for UFC Fight Night 133, Dos Santos versus Ivanov. If you guys have any questions or anything I could work on, anything you'd like me to add, shoot me a question or leave a comment in the comment section. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk about MMA. Definitely I appreciate you guys taking out the time to listen to me talk about DFS. You can hit me up on Twitter at JEFPO. Sign up for UFC Event Pass. It's only $4.99. You'll make your money back if you follow my strategy. We had one of our subscribers this weekend. I give him a perfect strategy to follow. He's a newbie when it comes to MMA DFS, and he had Green Light City all the way up and down his the strategy that I gave him, and it works. I'm telling you right now, you can make money as long as you come into it with the right strategy, and I definitely will help you with that. You definitely can't rush it. You have to be patient. You have to pick and choose your battles. Bankroll management is key. I can help you with that. I have a breakdown of that as well. If you guys are into Major League Baseball DFS, day passes for that are only $2.50. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you can gain access to the strategy session, the slate profiling in the morning, that CK, Pauly D go over. They show their screens detailing on what they look for, who they target, how they target, everything that goes into the profile session. You'll also gain access to the 24-hour day, 7-day chat room. Also, the premium members only videos, you'll gain access to those as well. Same thing goes for the MMA event pass. It's $4.99. We have a live stream the day of the event, where I detail that morning. It's live, so we can go question and answers, and you definitely can benefit from all that. So if you're not already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, so when all of our new DFS content comes out, you'll be able to be notified and be up to date with all the fresh and new exciting things we are going on. If you're listening to us on iTunes, Podbean, leave us those 5-star reviews. Share it with your friends. Share it on social media if you're listening to us on Facebook or watching us on Facebook. Share it, like the video. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to listen to me. I ramble a little bit. That's from getting punched in the head so many times. But thank you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in the premium chat during the live stream on Saturday or throughout the week. As always, have fun and make that money.
Yeah.